Don't you ever get off your phone? Matt chastises while everyone in the circle stares in agreement. Oh, I'm sorry. You must have forgotten what it's like to be in a relationship since it's been such a long time. John defends himself. No, he's right. We set this trip up weeks ago. Chad piles on. Come on, John. This is a guy's weekend. Christian slurs, already deep into their alcohol supply. Put it away, bro. Nick piles on, lobbing a marshmallow over the campfire at John's head. You know what? Fuck you guys. I'm going to get another drink and let you have a little boy time, okay? John stands and wanders off into the night while his friends laugh at him. Who invited him? Jesse speaks, finally, sitting on his own while the rest of the chairs are placed in a semicircle on the opposite side of the fire. Anyway, back to my story. The Legend of Satan Claus. It's a stupid story anyway. Chad interrupts, always the skeptic and first to kill everyone's buzz. It's just a myth based on a demon named Andras. Shut up, Chad, let him finish, Christian blurts out drunkenly. Who is Andras? Nick asks. As I was saying, Andras is a demon who possesses humans and uses them as puppets to kill other people. Satan Claus was real, all right? He used to kill people every year around Christmas time. Matt argues. Satan Claus isn't a person, it's a curse. Jesse continues. Everyone who listens to the entire story will be unsanctified and targeted by the entity. Oh no, we're fucked now, guys. Nick mocks to a round of laughter from the semicircle while Jesse sits stoic. Satan Claus will leave gifts for all of us, though some say the presents are empty and simply meant to scare us, while others say the gifts contain the curse of possession. There is another group, however, that believes we will all die in random accidents after opening the boxes. Nobody has ever seen Satan Claus and lived. Christian, Nick, and Matt look around at each other uncomfortably. Then where do the stories come from? Chad cuts the tension. I thought you said he isn't a person. Matt interrupts before Jesse has a chance to answer Chad. He's not a person, it's an embodiment. Now shut the hell up and let me finish my story. What's an embodiment? Nick asks. John returns to his seat directly perpendicular to Jesse. Are you talking about all that satanic shit again, man? Get out of here with that. Hopefully he's coming for John first. He relies upon the telling of this story to thrive and keep his legacy alive. It is difficult to say whether he is a murderer or if the deaths were truly accidents, from inexplicable car crashes to falling icicles. John rubs his eyes, exasperated, while Chad sits next to him staring incredulously. One man was burned alive inside his own house, where mysteriously none of the doors would open once the flames began. Satan Claus takes whatever he needs from each person to accomplish his objective, and then moves on to the next. His end goal is to kill humans, and nothing less. Christian accidentally burns his marshmallow in the fire, listening to the tale with disgust. The rest of his friends sit still, yet in distress. Now that you've heard the whole story, you can run for the rest of your lives and never escape. You will never be free and never defeat the demon, or human, or whatever Satan Claus is. Jesse completes his story and relaxes back into his chair, satisfied at the job well done. The bonfire flares outward, nearly reaching everyone sitting around as they all exclaim, "You almost burned me, man!" Christian shouts, scooping his charred marshmallow from the floor. Thanks for the fairy tale. Chad sits unamused and sipping from a flask. John, Christian, Matt, and Nick goof around, discussing the story and making jokes. Christian makes an obscene gesture to Satan Claus, and John pretends to push him into the fire. Levity and jocularity are had by all on their annual December friend trip with a large fire and good drinks. all except for Chad and Jesse, who doesn't say another word, though none of them notice due to their excessive alcohol consumption. You know, guys, it is Christmas time, and that serial killer was never caught. He could be watching us right now, out in the middle of nowhere. Matt muses, getting the group back on topic. What was his name again? Nick asks. The Mistletoe Murderer. What kind of dumbass name is that? And how do you even remember something so stupid? Christian gripes, throwing his empty beer bottle at the fire. I don't know, man. I'm just really interested by things like this. Eventually, the good times slow and they put the fire out, returning to their tents for the night while also preparing to return home in the morning. Chad? Chad? Chad! What? What's your deal, bro? I thought you learned your lesson with the drugs, man. Christian pokes. Nothing, just daydreaming. Tired. Christian and Chad, the longest-standing friendship of the bunch, also happened to be neighbors and drove to the campsite together, as they do every year. You know, obviously I don't believe any of it, but I just keep thinking about Jesse's story. I don't know. Chad continues, massaging his eyes and deep in thought. Are you really fucking with me right now? You, of all people, scared of a little ghost story? Don't you watch horror movies to fall asleep? Forget it. Never mind. He was so convincing is all, and I don't know. Just forget I mentioned it. So, Christmas Eve dinner tonight. Christian removes his hand from the steering wheel and looks over at Chad, lowering his sunglasses. You know I'll be there. He grins. I just need to go grab a few more things before the stores start closing soon. Give me a few hours and I'll be ready. Christian pulls the car in front of Chad's house and empathetically puts it in park. You sure everything is all right, Chad? Never been better. He opens the door and lumbers out of the car. See you tonight. Chad closes it and begins to walk up his driveway before turning back and opening the door again. Don't forget the drinks. Christmas Eve morning turns into afternoon and then night, while their trip fades quickly into the metaphorical rearview mirror. Christmas lights and decorations flick on around the neighborhood as bitter cold falls upon their town, while the entire mood of the day changes. Chad returns home from running his errands and unlocks the door to find a house sitting in pitch black. He immediately tries the light switch to no avail, yet notices the tree lights are lit and shining even brighter in the dark house. How the hell is the tree still on? He speaks to himself without putting much effort into the thought. It rings through the quiet house as a reminder of the lack of company until dinner is ready. He remembers the flashlight still in his pocket from the camping trip, a safety measure necessary to survive in the middle of the winter woods. Chad shines the light around the house, but sees nothing amiss. He walks toward the tree to inspect the lights and understand why they're still running, when he lights up a mysterious white and red gift that was not there earlier. White paper with red painted symbols which immediately cause him to grimace, inverted crosses and odd-looking stars and shapes of the occult. Chad sits on the floor next to the unwelcome present to think for a moment, ultimately pulling out his phone and dialing Christian. Already diving into his glass, Christian sets it down to answer the phone.
Yo, what's up?
What the hell is this?
What is what, Chad? What are you talking about?
You know what I'm talking about. You're the only one who could have done this. You or Jesse. I don't find this funny.
Chill, bro. It was probably just Jesse playing a prank. You know how he is. You remember the fire exploding?
Christian speaks calmly to bring Chad back down to earth. Then you got one too? So it wasn't you?
Yeah, man. It was just an empty box. Relax.
It was empty? Chad asks, skeptical.
You worry too much, Chad. That's your problem. It's just a joke. You need to learn to laugh at it. Relax, have some fun. I'll come over and give you a hand, alright? Be there in a bit.
Chad hangs up the phone without another word, exasperated after a busy day and still needing to cook dinner. Christian stares at his phone for a second and decides to call Jesse for clarification. A signal rings through the room that the line has been disconnected. Okay, don't answer your phone then. He speaks to himself, unbothered. Chad sits in his living room and picks up the strange gift. The red paint is fashioned to look like blood running down the sides of the box, with tiny red ho 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 glittery stickers adorning the paper. He wrinkles his nose at the idea, but decides to unwrap the gift and move on with his night. Let's try giving Annie a call. Christian speaks aloud in his room. A long dial tone rings before she finally picks up.
What do you want, Christian? Jesse's not here.
Well, my bad. I just had a question for him, but he's not answering his phone. Sorry for assuming he would be with you.
Oh, your friend Jesse? That broke-ass left me last week and never came back. We thought something was wrong at first because he left everything here. You really should choose your friends better.
Annie patronizes through the phone. I'm sorry, Annie. I didn't know. We went on our Christmas trip this weekend and, well, he didn't mention anything.
He really didn't even mention me?
Wait, you said he disappeared? He was just with us last night, so nothing could be wrong?
He was acting really weird, quiet, not talking to anybody. Then he just disappeared and left me like the asshole he is.
He lowers the phone from his ear in disbelief, replaying the previous night in his mind and deep in thought.
Christian, are you still there?
She shouts. I'm sorry, Annie, but I have to go. I need to find Jesse right now.
Oh, fantastic. Just like your friend. Use me to get what you need.
Christian hangs up and leaps from the bed, without noticing the candle lit on his desk extinguishes on its own. Chad pulls out a pocket knife and cuts along the top of his grotesque gift, peeling the sides apart and removing a black metal cross, inverted as he pulls it out and lit only by the red and green lights on the tree. He turns the cold steel over in his hands, bewildered. There is something else small in the bottom of the box, perhaps an object that might explain the idea of the prank. Chad reaches inside, then hesitates for a second before ultimately deciding to grab the other item. A popping sound hits his ears first, followed by a projectile stream of blood into his nose and mouth as he gasps for breath, alone and kneeling before the tree. The velvety red liquid drips from his chin onto the floor while voices circulate the room and chant in his ears. The puddle reflects both an owl and Chad's face staring into it, urging him to rub the blood onto his forehead and eyes. So he does.
You have reached the voicemail box of Matt. Please leave a message at him.
Someone needs to answer their damn phone. Christian uncharacteristically loses his cool while frantically dialing everyone else that sat around the campfire.
You have reached the voicemail box of Nick. Please leave.
Okay, god damn it, answer! Christian paces the room for clarity and attempts to convince himself this is a massive misunderstanding, though he knows the truth. He ultimately decides to call Chad again and give in to his fears. The phone rings multiple times and seems to be another dead end, when there is a click, followed by shallow and quiet breathing. Chad! Thank God you answered. Chad, I think I made a huge mistake. I tried getting a hold of Jesse, but couldn't. So then I called John, Matt, and Nick, and got their voicemail. Can you hear me all right? Don't open the box, Chad. I said, do not open the box. The creak of a wooden stair reverberates through an empty house outside Christian's bedroom door. He slowly turns his head to see the doorknob move silently at quarter turns, opening the door into the dark hallway to reveal a broad shadow. Chad? The figure lurches forward, unrecognizable with blacked-out eyes and deep bags beneath them. Christian's heightened senses compel him to leap off the bed, though his only exit is blocked. He desperately tries to run toward the corner of his bedroom as Chad lunges forward with inhuman speed and wraps a massive hand around the back of Christian's neck, yanking him backward as he panics. Chad uses his other hand to grasp Christian by the throat and slam him down on the bed, leaning his full weight onto his longtime best friend's neck. The color begins to drain from Christian's face and vision, staring up at the exoskeleton of Chad with desperate eyes and knowing he failed. They all did. Savagery consumes him, and Chad cannot control the impulses of the entity within, digging his nails into the fragile throat crushing between his hands. Just as Christian's consciousness nears its end, Chad punches him repeatedly in the head and face before ultimately yanking his neck to one side and leaving it limply dangling off the edge of the bed. Imagine being part of something bigger than yourself, bigger than your friends, your family, giving yourself over to it entirely. What if you didn't have a choice but to serve? You may have to be bent and broken into submission, but you will lose. Chad speaks ominously to a fresh group around a campfire, revolving his head around them one by one and staring into each set of eyes intently. He is unseen and undetectable until your worthless existence is far beyond saving. They call him Satan Claus. The fire erupts upward and nearly burns everyone sitting around it. Chad leans back, satisfied his oath has been completed.